Hey, good day, everybody. Steve Prasbrowski here. Welcome to tip number 91 in the series 101 Tips to Ace Your Promotional Exam. As a reminder, my website on the screen there has lots of great free resources. Check it out if you haven't done so already. And this series is based on my latest book from Fire Engineering Books and Videos of the same name, available off their website as well as mine. Tip number 91, pretty simple stuff. You hear this a lot about leaders, is they forgot where they came from. Well, it happens. And I think all of us in leadership positions are at risk for forgetting where we came from and why we're here, why we're human beings. And especially those of us that have worked our way up the ranks up to especially the chief officer positions that are driving a desk every day, meaning a fire chief, a company officer, you're in the fire engineer ladder company. The engineer, the firefighter obviously are too. Battalion chief, you still got a buggy, you're usually by yourself. However, you get to like deputy assistant division fire chief, you usually got a buggy, but it's typically you're driving a desk because you're on a Monday through Friday schedule, and that's what you do to support the troops in the field. But anyway, when you've worked in an office position 40 hours a week or more supporting the troops in the field as one of the higher up chief officers, or even as a staff captain or as a firefighter, because there are some departments that do have firefighters and or captains that work office positions to support the folks in the field, it's easy to forget why you're here because you get, sucked into your work, and you got different projects you're managing, programs you're managing, and you're not out there on the fire engine or the ladder company or the rescue company or the box, interacting with people all day long, when that call 911. So I get it, but the key is we can't forget why we're here. And the voice of experience, words of wisdom that are helping support my thoughts on tip 91 is my buddy Todd Ledoux, retired deputy chief out of Broward County, Florida, fire rescue. He's also now currently chief strategy officer of LifeScan Wellness Centers. Now, if you haven't checked out LifeScan Wellness Centers, they do awesome work at annual physical ability tests, at medical exams and physical fitness evaluations. Our department we've been fortunate. In my fire department, when I got hired 26 years ago, they put us through annual physical exams. And that was, not every department does that every year, let alone every other year. It was great that we're fortunate that our department supports us health and wellness wise and looks out for us. Well, a couple of years ago, we were and I want to give a plug because I think their service is valuable. If you haven't checked them out, please go to their website for LifeScan Wellness. But we were exposed to the great things they're doing. Obviously they do a great in-depth medical evaluation that you would get at probably any medical provider that you normally would get at, hearing, vision, all the EKG, blah, blah, blah. But they also do a lot of pre-cancer screening. One of the best things they do is a head to toe cancer screening. I went through this about 6 months ago when we first got to start our first round of LifeScan Wellness evaluations for every employee on the department, because we're putting everyone through it. It was a 2-hour evaluation head to toe, and it wasn't checking the boxes, because I've had medical evaluations in the past, or physicals by doctors that were just sort of check the box. Hey, I got any questions? Versus they do a great job. And from what I have understood, not just from our department, from other departments, they've actually found cancer in people. Cancer that was maybe just starting out or hadn't really blown up yet. But the nice part is at such a low level that those folks were able to find out. And a lot of these folks are at young ages of 20s, 30s, even 40s that you wouldn't think would have cancer. But because we're so predisposed to cancer, we need to be checking this stuff out better. I know there's other companies out there, but I know they do a good job. But apparently, like I've been told, they found some cancer in people. And now we have folks, just like other organizations, there's many success stories that are getting treatment long before they probably would have found out about them. And sometimes they might not have found out until they were dead or had, like stage 5, 2 days to live. So they do a great job checking all that stuff, not to mention physical examination, but check them out. Now, what this means, don't forget why we're here. It's service above self. A lot of people tend to forget that, but when you take that oath of office, you raise your hand when you're fire chief or whoever's giving you the oath of office on that first day. You're taking an oath of office to serve. You're a civil servant as a firefighter, police officer, whatever. I don't care. Fire chief, firefighter, company officer, we're civil servants. We work for the taxpayers. The taxpayers pay for us to be there. And you may say, well, I'm a volunteer. Well, the taxpayers still fund the volunteer fire service. I mean, I know there's other funding mechanisms too, but a lot of people, we live in a time where it's entitlement is alive and well. And there's a lot of, I think, younger people that get a bad rap for being entitled. I hear that from a lot of people. Oh, these young people, the millennials, it's the entitlement generation. Don't blame the millennials. Don't blame whatever generation name you're hearing. We live in an entitlement world. Don't believe me? Watch daytime TV sometime. I was watching as I'm on my treadmill the other day, all this daytime TV of all these lawyers and all these, hey, do you know as a senior citizen, you are entitled to these Medicare benefits? And it's people in their 80s. And you think about it, before you start blaming a certain age group like kids for how they behave or how they act, don't blame them, blame their parents, blame the grandparents. Yeah, that's the problem we have in society. We live in an entitled society and people tend to forget that. You take the oath of office, it's no longer about me. It's me risking my life for others. It's me putting myself in front of others. I was back east about a year and a half ago, right after COVID hit, and I was teaching a class and I was talking with some firefighters at a department in the South. And I remember we were talking about, hey, what's your department done because of COVID now? And, we were all talking about a lot of the same things while we shut down training and, we're having to wear masks and we're doing all this stuff. And I remember one firefighter at this one decent sized department, he was pissed because he goes, we could do better. He goes, we need to stop running medical calls. And I had to stop we're having a discussion in class. And I go, what? He goes, we asked our chief, do we have to keep running medical calls? And I'm not going to say the name of the department because I'd be embarrassed to work for that department. But here's this firefighter saying, we don't want to run medical calls. And I go, why? I go, you're an EMT, right? Yep. Been trained, right? Yep. I go, why don't you run medical calls? And his answer, because I don't want to get COVID, take it home to my family. And I was floored by that. And there's some other guys, we need to stop running medical calls. This is bullshit. Well, okay. I go, will you run into a burning building to risk your life to save someone's life, maybe dying in the process, but you're saving someone's life or at least attempting to save someone's life? This firefighter without missing, hell yeah, without a doubt. That's what I signed up for. But you're saying you didn't sign up for maybe getting yourself exposed to COVID or some other contagious pandemic disease, whatever it is, HIV, SARS, all these other names that we've had, bird flu over the years, flu. He goes, well, that's different. Oh, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I go, if you're willing to risk your life going into a burning building, then you know what? You got to risk your life helping those that need us. And that may be meaning bringing COVID home to your family, but knowing what you know, I also had to share back at him. I go, do you know though, that you're probably better protected with your EMS gear than you are your fire gear? And he goes, what are you talking about? I go, even if you're fully PPE'd, SCBA, Nomex hood, all the way down, full PPE, we know the studies show us that there's still a slim chance, maybe 1%, give or take, of things can still get through that PPE and expose you. However, if you've got your EMS PPE on and you recognize that it may be a case that may require such PPE on the patient and you provide a mask to the patient, you take them outside, you do those other precautions that most of us were doing when we first started reevaluating how we handled COVID and handled responses, I go, you probably have a better chance of not getting exposed as long as you're wearing everything. And now with the ability to have a vaccine on board, whether you agree with vaccines or not, I don't give a shit. Pro, anti, for, if you had a vaccine amongst all the other PPE tips and suggestions and best practices that we're aware of in the last year and a half, you probably have a hell of a lot less of a chance of bringing COVID home to your family. And why did you get in this job? Is it about, this is that interesting part is it's caused a dividing line, especially now during pandemic times. And obviously you may be listening to this or watching this, not in 2021, but in 2022, 2023, 2024, even later, hopefully you're going, what the hell is he talking about COVID? Well, just GTS, Google that shit and realize we had a hell of a pandemic during this time frame, no matter how long it lasts. But anyway, service above self. If it truly is about you, you're going to do the right thing that's going to benefit others. And that's what it's about, because it's not about us. Once we took that oath of office, It's no longer about us. We're willing to risk our lives and sacrifice ourselves, not for stupid reasons. Don't get me wrong. And I know some people say, well, COVID's stupid. No. Common sense. Also, it's always, because think about it, it's always about doing the right thing, spending the tax dollars wisely, and doing what's in the best interest of those we're fortunate to lead and serve, which segues to folks like her. Here's one of our local citizens a couple of years ago. She came down with her family to the firehouse because at Christmas time before COVID, this little girl felt bad for all the unfortunate kids. She came from a very, I don't know if it was a well-to-do household, but a household that was not unfortunate, I guess, for lack of a better term. She, over the years, at a young age, started developing a toy drive. So here this lady is doing a toy drive that she collects toys to give to disadvantaged kids or kids that can't afford them. So this is a good example of why we were here. And it's not just for the good deeds of the public. We're also here to make sure we get our butts inside that burning building to rescue our citizens, but also help them in times of need, even if they have COVID, and even if we may get it. But that's why, not to make it political, you have your vaccination, you wear your PPE, and you're hopefully good. Now, the last thing I want to mention is, here's a picture of a clean garage, because I talked about searching, rescuing, and everything else. Here's a picture of a clean garage. Now, when we talk about pulling up to a burning building, I made that comment a few minutes ago, asking that firefighter who doesn't want to risk their life to get COVID, take back to their family. Would you risk your life to save someone else's life? Sadly, there are some people in the fire service, volunteer, career, big city, small city, that don't want to go into burning buildings or don't want to go into hazardous environments for fear of getting cancer or affecting their health and wellness and bringing it back to their family or themselves. It's out there, sad to say. It's not a lot of people, but it's amazing how many people I hear out there in my travels. Well, I don't want to go in that burning building because I may get cancer. Huh? That's why you have an SCBA. That's why you're taught best practices. That's why you hopefully have an annual physical. No, you got to risk your life. And that's why we're here, because if we ain't going in that burning building, nobody else is. We're the last resort when someone calls 911 most of the time. So my point is that a lot of times I hear people, well, if there's cars in the driveway, then we'll go inside and do a search. But if I pull up to that house and there's no cars in the driveway or no newspaper in the front porch or front lawn, we'll wait for 2 in, 2 out. Just like, well, if it's 2 in the morning, there's a higher probability of life versus 2 in the afternoon, there's a less probability of life. Okay, you can get that out of your head. So if you're saying you're not going to go inside and initiate an aggressive search because there's no cars in the driveway, now you're discriminating against people that actually clean their garage and have the ability to park their cars in the garage, and they don't have 25-yard cars. And there's nothing wrong with if you do. I'm not discriminating against anybody. But then again, you say, well, yeah, there's a higher probability of life in a structure at 2 in the morning, but at 2 in the afternoon, you can't just write it off either, because one thing I've learned, even with the pandemic, but drive through any neighborhood, and I bet you're going to find at least one person in every other household, if not somebody in every 2 out of 3 households. I don't know about your areas, but I know in our area, we have a high cost of living, which means there's multiple generations of people, sometimes 4 generations living in one house, sometimes more than 10 people living in the same structure. So yes, some may be at work, some may be out, but you can't just say, well, it's 2 in the afternoon, there's no cars in the driveway, got to wait for 2 in, 2 out. Well, okay. You got to make that decision yourself. You got to understand the 2 in, 2 out law. I know there's some OSHA states, some non-OSHA states, but 2 in, 2 out is a best practice. Okay. But I've heard and seen, unfortunately, an alarming number of firefighters around the country that just get locked into that mindset of, okay, if I'm a 3-person company, I got to wait for my second crew to show up to have 2 in, 2 out, whether it's 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. I'm sorry, but you know what? 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning, crowded driveway, empty driveway. Okay. If you understand 2 in, 2 out, last time I read 2 in, 2 out was, if I believe there's emergency rescue activities inside that building, I can violate 2 in, 2 out. Well, guess what? If I believe emergency rescue activities are in that building, yeah, I think there's a good probability. It may not be extremely high probability like there is at 2 in the morning, but at 2 in the afternoon, I bet you there's a good probability, 50.1% or better, that somebody's in that structure. And if it truly is about them, and I hate us versus them when people say that, if it truly is about them, meaning the citizens, then we're going to get our butts in that building. It's not being reckless. It's not being stupid. I mean, it's one thing if you pull up in the house, it's fully involved, fully involved. And someone's outside saying, yeah, that's my house. I got my husband and my wife out of the house, my 2 dogs. Okay. Yeah, okay, fully involved. But that's the rarity. Most of the time, it's not fully involved. And that's, I think, one of the toughest decisions that first due officer has is that go, no go. But again, don't just ride off the building thinking, oh, wait, it's 2 PM. There's no cars in the driveway. There can't be anybody here. They're all at work. Well, think about another thing the pandemic did recently. This pandemic is allowing more people to work from home. So again, I drive down my street on any given day of the week, not just weekends, but in the middle of the day. And I bet you, like I said, every 2, if not every 3 or 4 houses, it may be every 5th or 6th that's empty, but you wouldn't know it from the outside. So the point is, if it truly is about them, the taxpayers, the ones that we are allowed and fortunate to do our jobs here because they allow us to, then we're going to go in there and be smart about it and make sure we get ourselves in there as fast as possible to get an aggressive primary search done, as well as getting water on the fire to help contain things and help things out. So enough on that subject. Hey, sadly, many in public safety, including the fire service, have lost focus on why they're fortunate to be in our position. Whether you're volunteer or career, if we're not going to serve or do our job, why have a fire department? If we're not going to go in burning buildings and search for people, defund the fire department. Hey, that's what the public is going to say if we don't want to go inside hazardous environments that we're trained, equipped for, and prepared for. Hey, that's why we're here. So do your job. So as always, thank you very much for the gift of your time, everybody. Until the next episode, be safe, take care, and remember why we're here. It's not about us. It's about those we're fortunate to lead and serve. Thank you.